All right, so today we're diving into, well, you could call it one of the most bizarre legal cases in history.
Definitely one of the strangest.
The trial of Arne Cheyenne Johnson, the devil made me do it case. Um, Looks like you brought along, wow, quite the stack of articles and reports, even some paranormal investigation stuff.
Yeah, we've got news clippings, court documents, even some firsthand accounts from paranormal researchers who were involved in the case. It's a lot to unpack.
It's a wild story, that's for sure. Okay, so 1981, quiet town in Connecticut, right?
Right. Brookfield, Connecticut. Sort of the picture of peaceful, small-town America. Until,
Until it wasn't. A murder rocks the community, and suddenly everyone's looking at this seemingly normal guy, Arne Cheyenne Johnson.
and that's where things get really interesting. Because our defense was, well, he claimed demonic possession led him to commit the murder.
Okay, so how does a regular guy like Arne, supposedly a good guy by all accounts, even get mixed up in something like this?
Well, to understand Arne, we have to go back a little bit to the Glatzel family.
The Glatzels. Okay, so that's Arne's girlfriend's family, right? And her younger brother.
Exactly. Debbie Glatzel was Arne's fiancée at the time, and her younger brother, David, he's really at the center of this whole thing. He was just 11 years old when things started happening, and I'm talking about full-on classic haunting stuff.
Like what? Give me some specifics. What kind of stuff was going on?
We're talking visions, disembodied voices, objects moving on their own. You name it, they claimed it happened in that house.
Chills, seriously. I mean, 11 years old, that's terrifying. So what'd the family do?
Well, they were desperate, obviously, tried everything they could think of, doctors, priests, you name it. They just wanted someone to explain what was happening to their son.
And that's where Ed and Lorraine Warren come into the picture, right? The paranormal investigators. Big names, even back then.
Right. They were already pretty well known from their involvement in the Amityville case. But this case, it wasn't just another investigation for the Warrens. They were convinced that David was possessed, like truly deeply possessed by something evil.
So they thought it went beyond a haunting, that it was something more sinister.
Much more. And you know what they thought was the answer? Exorcism.
Whoa. So wait, they actually performed an exorcism on this kid.
Not just one, they did a series of exorcisms.
Hmm.
And I'm not talking about some quiet ritual either. From what I've read, witnesses described intense struggles, David speaking in languages he shouldn't have known, the whole 9 yards.
That's heavy stuff. Hard to even wrap your head around it. And this is where Arn comes in, right? He tries to intervene during one of these exorcisms.
Yeah, it's like something out of a movie, but it's all right here in these reports. During one of the exorcisms, Arne, he was so in love with Debbie and so concerned for her family that he challenged the entity.
Challenged it how?
He basically dared the demon to possess him instead of David. He told it to take him if it wanted to fight.
Yeah.
And that's when things really took a turn, because according to everyone there, that's when things started to change for Arne.
You mean like he started showing signs of dot possession?
Exactly. People said his behavior changed. He started having blackouts, exhibiting these really disturbing behaviors. It was like this dark side of him just emerged, seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, can you imagine? This guy, Arne, he just wanted to protect his girlfriend and her family, and then bam, this.
Talk about your worst nightmares coming true. But this wasn't just some personal struggle, right? This is what ultimately leads to the murder.
Yeah, tragically it does. A few months after that exorcism, Arne gets into this altercation with his landlord, Alan Bono, and, well, he stabs him to death.
Just like that. Out of the blue. Had there been any, history of violence with Arnie before this?
Not that anyone knew of. He was considered a pretty stand-up guy before all of this. So you can imagine this murder, it rocks this small town. People are terrified, confused, trying to make sense of it all.
And of course, the big question becomes, did he do it? Or was it like he claimed the demon influencing his actions?
And that's where the whole legal battle comes in. Arne's lawyer, Martin Manella, he makes this, frankly, audacious move to use demonic possession as a legal defense.
Whoa. I mean, I've heard of some unusual defenses, but that's got to be a first, right? Using demonic possession in court.
It caused a media frenzy for sure. Suddenly, this small-town murder is national news, and everyone has an opinion on whether the devil made him do it.
It's like something out of, well, a movie or something. So what happens in the trial? Were the Warrens involved?
Oh, they were all over it. They became star witnesses for the defense, even.
Really? What did they have to say? I mean, what kind of evidence could they present to support this whole demonic possession thing?
Well, they brought in all sorts of stuff. Photographs they claimed showed ghostly figures, recordings of weird noises from the Glatzel's house, even eyewitness accounts from people who were there during the exorcisms.
Okay, but come on, how much of that would actually hold up in court? It all seems pretty subjective.
Right, and that was basically the prosecution's whole point. They argued that the Warrens' evidence wasn't scientifically sound, that it was all just hearsay and speculation.
So it was basically a battle between, like, belief and hard evidence?
Exactly. And in the end, the jury, they weren't convinced. Arne was found guilty of manslaughter.
Wow. So even with the Warrens backing him up, even with this whole story, it wasn't enough. What a case. So what happened after the trial? I mean, did this whole thing pretty much ruin Arne's life?
Well, he was found guilty.
Right, right. But what about, like, his relationship with Debbie? Did they stay together through all of this?
Actually, yeah, they did. They even got married while he was still in prison.
Wow, that's something else. Talk about a testament to their love. What about the rest of the Glassell family, though? What happened to them after all the media attention died down?
There isn't a lot of information out there about what happened to them. It's almost like they just wanted to disappear after everything.
I can't say I blame them. It's a lot to go through, especially for a family with young kids. But you gotta wonder, what about the Warrens? Did this case hurt their reputation?
Funny you should ask that, because if anything, it seemed to make them even more famous.
Really? Even though they didn't technically win the case?
Yep. They wrote a book about the whole Arne Cheyenne Johnson case. There was even a movie made about it, or at least loosely based on it.
So it kind of backfired on anyone trying to discredit them, I guess. They just became even more well-known.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Their names to this day are synonymous with the paranormal.
So what's the takeaway here? I mean, we've got this murder, this claim of demonic possession, a trial that gripped the nation. It's a lot to process.
I think the biggest thing, at least for me, is that it makes you question, well, everything. What do we really know about good and evil? About the forces that might be at play in the world, even if we can't see them?
It's easy to dismiss this stuff as crazy, but then you dive into a case like this and you start to realize that maybe, just maybe, there's more to the world than we understand.
Exactly. And maybe, sometimes, the most important thing isn't finding all the answers, but being open to the possibility that some things, well, they just might not have a simple explanation. And that's what makes this case and really this whole topic so fascinating.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave it there for today's deep dive. Join us next time as we explore more of the strange and unexplained.